Here it is. I was with my ex for 4 years and planned to propose. One night, while out with friends, I caught her kissing another guy in a car at a stoplight. 3 days later, I told her I was visiting my brother out of state, never mentioning where. That was 30 years ago, and she still has no idea where I am. She's been married and divorced twice since then, even marrying the guy she cheated with, only to cheat on him too. I've been happily married for 22 years now. This comment is powerful. 30 years ago, this man saw his girlfriend betray him and chose to walk away. No confrontation, no pleading, just a clean exit. The outcome. She's been through 2 failed marriages, clearly never learning from her mistakes, while he's enjoyed 22 years of a happy marriage. This is the kind of wisdom we talk about all the time. When someone reveals their true character, trust them the first time. This guy didn't need second chances to realize she wasn't worth his commitment. He saw the truth, made his choice, and moved on decisively. The fact that she still doesn't know where he is after 3 decades, that's true dedication to moving forward. That's how you handle betrayal, folks, swiftly, decisively, and permanently. If you've got similar stories, drop them in the comments and I'll feature them in future videos. Now, let's get into today's story. She said, "I can't control it if guys find me captivating. Maybe you need to raise your standards." After I saw her exchange numbers with a stranger, I replied, "You're right." The next day, her name was removed from everything I paid for, her belongings were packed, and her key no longer worked. She called me 23 times that day. I'm 34, male, and according to my now ex-girlfriend, Natalie, 27, I needed to raise my standards. Well, I did exactly that, just not how she expected. It was Saturday night at Copper Mill, a popular downtown bar where we were celebrating her friend Amanda's new job. The place was buzzing, crowded, great music, drinks flowing. Natalie looked stunning in a red dress that cost more than most people's monthly bills. She always dressed to turn heads. Around 10 p.m., I was chatting with a guy about football when I noticed Natalie at the bar with some random man. He was tall in a sharp suit, probably mid-30s, looking like he belonged in a fashion ad. Nothing new, Natalie always drew attention wherever we went. But then I saw her laugh at his comment, lean closer, and pull out her phone. She typed something, handed it to him, and he typed back. They pocketed their phones, and she touched his arm while laughing again. I strolled over, keeping my cool. The guy saw me approaching and vanished quickly, a wise move. "What was that about?" I asked, my tone steady. Natalie turned with a smug grin. "Oh, that, he asked for my number, so I gave it to him." "You gave him your number?" I repeated. She shrugged like it was no big deal. "I can't help it if guys find me captivating, Jake. Maybe you need to raise your standards." The way she said it. So arrogant, so entitled, like I should feel lucky to be with her. Amanda and a couple of friends nearby watched, some looking uneasy, others hiding smirks. "You're right," I said. "I definitely need to raise my standards." She smirked, thinking she'd won. "Good. Glad you're finally catching on." I grabbed my coat and headed for the door. Natalie called out, asking where I was going, but I didn't stop. She'd find out soon enough. Update 1. The next day, Sunday morning, I woke up with absolute clarity. Time to raise my standards, just as Natalie suggested. First, I reviewed our living situation. The apartment was mine, my lease, my name only. Natalie had moved in 18 months ago, but always dodged adding her name to the lease, claiming it was too much hassle. Her mistake. Legally, though, she'd lived there long enough to have tenant rights, so I couldn't just evict her without proper notice. That would take weeks, so I got strategic. I started with the financial side. Natalie's car lease was in her name, but I'd been covering payments for a year because she claimed she was short on cash. I called the leasing company and informed them I'd no longer be making payments on her behalf, effective immediately. They said they'd contact the primary lessee about new arrangements. Next, her phone. She was on my family plan, saving her about $60 a month. I called the carrier and removed her line from my account. They said the change would take effect at the end of the billing cycle in 3 days. Then, car insurance. She was listed as a driver on my policy, but her car had its own coverage. I removed her as an authorized driver from my insurance right away. Credit cards were next. She had access to 2 of my accounts as an authorized user for emergencies. I contacted both banks, revoked her access, and canceled her cards. They said the cards would stop working within 24 hours. Her gym membership, which was under my family plan, was canceled too, effective immediately. The apartment was trickier due to her tenant rights. I couldn't legally change the locks or remove her things yet. Instead, I rented a storage unit for 6 months. paid up front and prepared. Then I wrote a letter stating our relationship was over, I'd no longer be covering her expenses, and she had 30 days to find a new place as required by law. It was professional and polite. I left it on the kitchen counter where she'd see it. That evening around 7 p.m., Natalie came home, still in her red dress from the night before, looking a bit rough. She spotted the letter, read it, and her face cycled through confusion, anger, shock, panic, and back to anger. "Jake, what is this?" she demanded, waving the paper. "It's a 30-day notice to vacate," I said calmly. "Also, I'm no longer covering your expenses, effective immediately." "You can't be serious," she said. "Completely serious, Natalie. You told me to raise my standards last night, so I did. I realized I was bankrolling someone who hands out her number to strangers and says I'm not good enough." "That's not what I meant, and you know it," she snapped. "It's exactly what you meant," I replied. "You made it clear other guys are more interesting, so go be captivating on someone else's budget." An hour later, she tried ordering food delivery with her credit card. It was declined. She tried the second card, same result. That's when the calls started. "Jake, my cards aren't working," she said when I picked up. "That's right, Natalie, you're no longer an authorized user on my accounts." How am I supposed to eat? How am I supposed to function? Like any adult, Natalie, use your own money, your own cards, your own resources. She hung up and immediately called back. I let it go to voicemail. Update 2. 2 days later, by Monday morning, reality hit Natalie hard. The leasing company called her about her car payment, warning that missed payments could lead to repossession by Wednesday. She came to me frantic. "Jake, they're saying they'll take my car if I don't pay by Wednesday." "Then pay it," I said. "With what money? You know I don't have that kind of cash." "That's a budgeting issue, Natalie, not my problem. You've been paying it for a year. You can't just stop." "I can and I have," I said. "Watch me." She spent Monday calling friends, begging for loans. Amanda lent her enough for the car payment but made it clear it was a one-time favor. By Tuesday, her phone service was cut off. She called me from Amanda's phone. "Jake, my phone's dead." "That's because you're no longer on my plan," I said. "Get your own service." "How am I supposed to do that without money?" "Figure it out, Natalie. You're captivating, right? Maybe one of your admirers can help." On Wednesday, she tried a new tactic, showing up at my workplace during lunch. Security called, saying a woman was in the lobby asking for me. I went down and found Natalie, stressed and desperate. "Jake, please," she said. "I can't afford all this on my own, you know that." "Then you shouldn't have told me to raise my standards," I replied. "This is what that looks like. I'm sorry about Saturday. I was drunk. I was dumb." "You were honest," I said. "For the first time, you told me exactly what you thought of me." "That's not true. You said other guys find you captivating and I need to step up." "Well, I did." I walked back to my office, leaving her in the lobby. Update 3. 1 week later, by the end of the first week, Natalie was crashing at Amanda's, burning through her limited funds to keep up her lifestyle. Losing her gym membership hit her hard. She went there daily, mostly to be noticed. Amanda called me Thursday night, exasperated. "Jake, this is getting out of hand. Natalie's driving me up the wall. She won't look for a place. She just keeps talking about fixing things with you." "There's nothing to fix," I said. "She told me exactly what she thinks of me." "It was one dumb comment, Jake. You're ruining her life over it." "I'm not ruining anything," I said. "I'm just not paying for it anymore. There's a difference. Why would I support someone who thinks other guys are more captivating?" On Friday, Natalie tried getting into the apartment building but was stopped at the front desk. They called me saying someone claimed to live there. "She's not on the lease," I told them. "She's a guest who's moving out. Don't let her up without my permission." Monday brought new desperation. Natalie's mom, Carol, called me. "Jake, this is getting ridiculous," she said. "Natalie's falling apart. You need to sort this out." "With respect, Carol, your daughter told me other men find her captivating and I should raise my standards." I did by walking away. "She made a mistake, Jake. Everyone does." "Some mistakes have bigger consequences," I said. "I don't bankroll people who give their numbers to strangers." Halfway through the 30-day notice, Natalie still hadn't found a place. She was bouncing between Amanda's couch and other friends, but was wearing out her welcome. In a last-ditch effort, she showed up at the apartment with a locksmith, claiming she'd lost her key. The building manager called me first. "Sir, there's a woman here with a locksmith requesting access to your unit." "Don't let them in," I said. "She doesn't live here anymore and I haven't authorized any locksmith." The locksmith refused to proceed without my approval and left. Natalie called me furious. "Jake, my stuff's in there. I have a right to it." You have a right to collect your things with advance notice during reasonable hours, I said. You don't get to bring locksmiths to my apartment. I need my stuff now? Text me a date and time that works, Natalie. I'll be there while you collect your things, and then you can move on with your captivating life. She hung up but texted an hour later, requesting Wednesday evening. I agreed. On Wednesday, she arrived with Amanda and a small moving truck. It took them 3 hours to pack her belongings. I watched to ensure nothing of mine was taken but stayed out of their way. When they finished, Natalie stood in the empty bedroom, looking around in disbelief. Jake, she said softly, this doesn't have to be over. We can fix this. You told me to raise my standards, I said. This is what that looks like. Find someone who thinks you're worth fighting for. Amanda drove off with Natalie and her stuff. I changed the locks that night, just in case. Final update. 1 month later, it's been a month since I raised my standards, and the change has been incredible, not just for me, but in Natalie's realization of how the world works. She found a small apartment across town, but her parents had to co-sign because her credit wasn't strong enough. Amanda told me she's working extra shifts to cover expenses she never knew I was handling. Car payments, phone bills, insurance, gym fees, streaming services. Being captivating doesn't pay the bills. She reached out through mutual friends, sending apologies and pleas for another chance. My response was always the same. She got what she asked for. The irony is that her Saturday night comment was meant to push me to compete for her, to prove my worth. Instead, it made me recognize my own value and stop supporting someone who didn't appreciate it. Amanda stopped playing mediator after seeing Natalie wasn't seeking solutions, just someone to solve her problems. Even her friends grew tired of her complaints about how expensive life is. Last week, I saw her at the grocery store, clutching coupons and looking stressed as she counted items in her cart. She waved hesitantly. I nodded politely and kept shopping. No drama, just two strangers who once knew each other. Oh, and that guy from Saturday? He never texted her. Amanda said he was married, just collecting numbers for fun. Natalie waited for a message that never came while I was busy raising my standards by cutting support for someone who thought I wasn't enough. She wanted me to fight for her, to prove her worth. Instead, she learned that some men don't compete. They walk away and let others handle their own lives. The lesson is clear. When someone tells you to raise your standards, take them seriously. Sometimes that means stepping away from people who don't value what you bring to the table. Natalie's learning to be captivating on her own dime. Meanwhile, I raised my standards in a way she never expected, by refusing to support someone who thought other men were more interesting. Sometimes the best response is to stop doing the kind things you did and let people face their own responsibilities.